friends, and welcome to Growing Catholics. Thank you so much for joining us in our new initiative as we begin this mini-series on the virtues that lead us closer to God through a holy way of living. Before we dive into individual virtues, I'd like to take a moment to consider what St. Thomas Aquinas calls the 4 states of the moral life. And I think this is going to be really helpful to us as we endeavor to be more virtuous and to grow in those habits that actually help us to grow closer to Jesus. So what does he mean by the 4 states of moral life? Well, each of us is created in God's image and likeness. And what does that mean specifically? We're probably familiar with that expression. We've been taught that from a young age for many of us. But what does that mean? What does that look like in practice? Well, friends, it's our ability to think and to rationalize that separates us from the animals. Not only this, but also our free will, our ability to choose, and our ability to apply our conscience to our individual decisions and actions and choices. So these things make us like God. God has made us like himself in his own image and likeness, with our ability to think, to use our intellect, and to choose with our will. So in the moral life, these 2 things are key. Each of us as well is endowed with different appetites, things that we're drawn to. And some of those appetites are good. Sometimes we have an appetite for something that's not going to be good for us. And the moral state, these 4 moral states that St. Thomas describes, is going to allow us to bring all of that together. First, and the highest moral state that St. Thomas describes is that of the virtuous. The virtuous state is, think of the person who they know with their intellect what is good. And with their will and their appetite, they desire what's good. So there's really no internal struggle that's happening when they're presented with a temptation, a choice to choose either for God or against God. They don't even desire the latter choice. They don't desire to choose against God because they've developed in themselves a consistent attitude and a habit towards what's good. This is the virtuous person. There's no internal struggle or conflict. They choose repeatedly again and again and again what is good. They've developed a habit towards the good. The second moral state, St. Thomas calls the continent state. And that comes from the Latin word continentia, which means self-control. And in this state, there is a little bit of an internal struggle within the person's heart. They know what's good with their intellect, and they have a desire to choose what's good, but at the same time, they're conflicted. And they also have a desire for something that's not good. So there's this internal battle going on in that person's heart between good and evil, and the continent person wins that battle. After the struggle, they do choose what's good. But this is a little less perfect than the virtuous person for whom there is no conflict. There is no real battle. It's easy for them to choose what's good, and they don't really even have to put up that much of a fight, if one at all. Below the continent person is the incontinent person, the one who lacks self-control. And this person, while at the same time as the continent and the virtuous, they know what's good, they know what they ought to do, they know what God invites them to do, but they're struggling, and they lose that battle, they lose that struggle. And after a fight, putting up a little bit of a fight, they give in to the temptation and they choose sin, even though they know it was wrong. Friends, St. Thomas says that while this is far from perfect, this is not the worst possible reality, because at least the person who is incontinent, at least they're trying, at least they know what's good, they're striving for what's good, even though they've failed in that fight. There could be a worse option, and that is the lowest of the moral states, which is the vicious person. The vicious person, like the virtuous, doesn't endure a struggle. There is no struggle, but it's the inverse of the virtuous person. They've actually developed a false perception and come to see evil as something that is good. And they consistently pursue what is evil as if it were something good, something to be desired. So they have a desire for evil, and they have a false perception of what is good and what is evil. So this person chooses evil repeatedly without a struggle. They don't even consider putting up a fight against the temptation because they don't think there's anything to fight against. So friends, with all of that teaching of St. Thomas as our backdrop, I'd like you to consider today, where do you fall in your own life on that scale of the four moral states? Are you the virtuous person? Are you someone who has developed a real habit towards what is good? You desire what's good, you know what's good so much that it's not even a real struggle for you. And when you're presented with a temptation, you almost automatically choose what God wants you to choose because you've practiced that again and again and again. Are you the continent person, where you know what's right and you have a desire to grow in holiness, but maybe it's a bit of a struggle sometimes? And despite that, the reality of that struggle, you are victorious in that fight with God's grace and with your will cooperating with his grace. Maybe you're the incontinent person and there's some real room for growth and improvement, and you know that you need to reach that, but maybe have been unsuccessful so far for whatever reason that might be. Or have you fallen so far in your misunderstanding of what God is asking you to do with your life and how he invites you to use those gifts that make you so much like him, your intellect and your will? Have you squandered those gifts and come to see something that is actually evil as something that is good, that should be pursued? Friends, wherever you fall on that scale, I invite you to be honest with yourself today and to allow and to invite the Lord to continue to work in you and to make known to you by shedding his light on your conscience and on your heart where it is that he is calling you to go. God bless you.